Probably just going to be the trade of the junglers. I'm curious to see what Tarzan wants to get here. You mentioned that Olaf is usually a ban taken away from Tarzan, not normally getting that pick into something like Hecarim, but Udyr always feels like it's a nicer pick just because he can keep up and actually surpass Hecarim in tempo earlier on, and Tarzan wants to be able to do this. This is how they might be able to take over control away from JDG to make it so that they're going to have to constantly play into their hands.
Yeah, so I want to very quickly talk about the Twisted Fate ban, which I'm a little late on. I know we're moving on through the draft, but I just want to quickly mention that this has been banned against JDG 70% of the time. Like, every team has to ban this Twisted Fate. One of the ways that JDG have looked exceptional is Yagao playing on the Twisted Fate, managing to snowball through the side lane. So that's a respect ban against specifically JDG. Back to where we're actually at in the draft, though. The Udyr and the Alistar, very standard, very good picks right now. For JDG, you can expect them to lock in their bottom lane here. You can go for an AD carry alongside the Rell. Again, Alistar Rell, good for both sides of the matchup. Much more about the actual team fight itself. But with Kai'Sa, with Tristana banned away, there aren't many aggressive AD carries to punish something like a Jinx.
Exactly, and that's what I was wondering is, what are you going to take as your option with 3 marksmen off the board and Jinx taken for Loken? It's going to be difficult for LNG. They kind of dig through their pockets to find what kind of change they got.
Yeah, still some AD carries available. Like Senna, for example, has completely fallen out of the meta. We haven't seen Senna in a while, but she is a good option when it comes to being able to scale up comparatively to the Jinx. You can outrange the Jinx in some situations early on in the game. But yeah, Aphelios we talked about before, also just very safe on the bot side. Happy to just scale up, happy to just handshake that laning phase. So we're going to have a bot lane here that is pretty even. And this is really important for JDG. The way that they have drafted this, they've basically removed Tristana, said, we want the Kai'Sa, we want to be the aggressive bot lane. Removed that option to be the aggressive bot lane from Light and Lwandy. Xayah as well, a comfort pick for Light. They're trying to push LNG away from what's comfortable.
And that's what's so interesting about this draft. Normally, Light and Lwandy want to play aggressively. They want to be able to put pressure in that bot lane. Even though we probably will still see them fight that way, it's not really that same lane prowess that we normally see, like the likes of Kai'Sa, the likes of Tristana, which means we might have to see something different for the top side. For Mikuya, I wouldn't be surprised if they hold on to top as that counter pick to be able to beat Zoom.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the mid lane here as well, because both Zoe and Orianna are available, which are perfectly comfortable for both of these mid laners. Like, Zoe has been a big pick for both sides of the board here. I think Orianna typically is the better side of that matchup because Zoe doesn't really have as much kill threat. So this will be a handshake lane, but Yagao exceptional on the Zoe, and those two mid laners going to be locked in. So it is down to the top lane. Zoom doesn't get to go for the counter pick here. He has to go blind, so maybe thinking like something like the Scion or a Nocturne. Okay,
right.
We're getting spicy.
I like seeing this kind of spice. I mean, I wonder how spicy they want to get. Do we get like the run back of the days of Hecarim top lane and Nocturne jungle? I doubt that. That would be really funny to see here. But you're seeing Zoom onto this onto this Nocturne is going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not an expert on Nocturne top. This is not something that I was preparing moving into the series. Or maybe it's the Zoe top. You never know. I doubt that, though. I'm a little sad that Mikuya is going for the Ornn here, because I feel like... Wait, they're not trading. Is it?
I know.
Zoe
that's
top?
why I'm like, I'm waiting.
I'm gonna wait till we're on the rift.
Rift.
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't gonna say anything until the trade
right?
happened. I'm like, they're not trading. Is it a bug? They're not trading.
Just like, that trade's happening real slow. Anyway, yeah, Mikuya going for the Ornn. Like, I can respect it. It's an aggressive top laner here for the Nocturne play, something that's very safe. My big concern is JDG are more than happy to just allow this bot lane to handshake. They are going to dive top. You just know it. And Mikuya has the Ornn, but especially in the early levels, if they're able to crash a big old wave, Hecarim's happy to go for these tower dives. If Zoe can move up, which it's very easy to just clear the wave and move, I can see a lot of attention on Mikuya in this start of the series.
As can I. We know JDG like to play around the top side, and what better champion than a Nocturne to get rolling immediately, right, Munch?
Yeah, feels pretty good. for Zoom, I have no idea.
Neither do
Zoom
I.
is a good Nocturne player. I don't think Zoom has much of a history on Nocturne, but I don't really care. I'm excited for this one. And I love that as well. In a blind pick, they go for the Nocturne. Like, maybe there is some crazy counter picks you can go versus Nocturne in the top lane. I don't know. But Makuya, basically calling Makuya's bluff and saying, what have you got that is good against Nocturne? Do you even know what you've got that's good against Nocturne? Who knows? Because it's not exactly a meta top laner.
I think it's only been played 9 times in top lane this year, but you know what? I'm excited. I like this kind of spicy pick. We've loaded up onto the ref for game number 1, JDG LNG Nocturne top. Who knows what's going to happen?
This one should be a good one. And once again, this is a crucial game when it comes to the standings. For LNG, they are literally fighting to survive. They are fighting to make it to playoffs. They are 7-6 in series right now, but they have a negative win-loss rate when it comes to individual games. So they really, really need every single win for themselves. They could do with a 2-0, to be quite honest, when it comes to those standings, when it comes to beating IG, BLG, V5, these teams.
Now, I don't know.
But for the side of...
Very much, I got something for you. I don't know how accurate it is.
You go.
But Ziv has played Nocturne top once in LPL. It lost. That's all I got, really, going for me.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to continue with my previous point. JDG, on the other hand, if they win this series, will be tied for 4th place at 10 wins. We will have 7 teams in the league that are all 1 win apart from 1st place. How insane is that?
That is wild. That is one of those... I mean, you expect that in LCS, LEC, you see oftentimes they have a bunch of ties, but LPL's like, hold my beer. I'm going to show you how tiebreakers are actually done.
Yeah, it's honestly insane. I cannot believe how close this split is, and like, I'm not just saying that as hyperbole to try and hype things up. This is the closest I've ever seen around Robin. Like, the top 7 teams, even before this series, 2 wins apart, is absolutely insane to me, and I'm really, really curious how it all pans out over the course. Like, we only have 9 days left of LPL, including today. There is very limited amounts of games left, and it's so close. It's going to be insane going into playoffs.
I'm excited for that. I like seeing a league this close where the top teams, you're just not sure who's going to be able to have the edge going into it, since we've seen teams absolutely dominate. We've seen teams be absolutely close. You can only imagine a best-of-5 series, how things might change, how a pick might be able to completely catch a team off guard. I think back on the EDG Top Esports series, how close that series was. It was a best-of-5. Who knows what could have happened? It could have gone full 5 and maybe EDG win.
Yeah, potentially. We'll have to see once we get to playoffs when it comes to those best-of-5s. Nice little trade in the mid lane here from Yagao. I want to quickly address what's been going on in this game, because we're, you know, in the early game, it's been fairly handshaken so far as Kanavi moves to the bot scuttle. But does have a bit of a
Yagao,
1v1 here between the junglers.
Yagao was able to rotate pretty fast, but you can see bot lane is actually the focus. That Loken doesn't have that flash to be able to get over the wall, trying to get towards the team to be able to survive. Ooh. Barely alive. They have LvMao wanting to go in with the crash down on Tarzan. First blood picked up by LvMao. The flash is coming in. Lwandy barely alive. Do they commit to this dive? They have a little bit of damage from that Alistar, but the flash in picks up the kill for Yagao.
That was so beautiful from JDG. This was absolutely magnificently orchestrated. Icon doesn't move over at all, so it's a man advantage for JDG. But just look how this fight starts. It looks like everything's going the way of LNG. I'm not sure if we're going to get a replay. I really hope we do. Because Loken, his positioning is so beautiful. You think he's dead. You think that Tarzan has him banged to rights. But instead, he's able to move up towards the rest of his team. And JDG are able to play out the fight beautifully. Tarzan will get this topside scuttle. It's a scuttle, a piece off the back of all of that early action. Kanavi, just a second too late. Zoom's in trouble here. No, he's not. They're gonna
he's going to be able to get back. But I want to... we'll go back to that in just a second. I'm waiting to see if Kanavi's going to actually try and think. He is going to back off. But keep in mind that that play, Loken never uses flash. He held that the entire time. I was waiting for this Jinx to flash, but he was able to play it perfectly.
Yeah, so look, the cleanse comes through early. Tarzan goes straight onto Loken. That attract repel from LvMao keeps Loken alive, saves the play, and then the crash down onto all three. The rest of the sword comes hurtling in. And then there's just a stylish little play from Yagao at the end where he's able to pick up the flash from the floor, jumps forward, zaps onto Lwandy. And guess what? The bot lane is ahead for JDG, as is the mid lane, and Icon's in trouble.
Icon gonna take a lot of damage from that paddle star. He just TP'd back into the lane too, not looking so good, but Zoom top lane is fighting with Makuya, was able to get the fear he needed to. A lot of damage in, and body blocking away from the hammer, so he doesn't even take the full brunt of the damage.
Yeah, really nicely played. Spell shields the knockup from Makuya, blocks the brittle proc, which is ultimately where the majority of the damage comes out from the Ornn, so really nicely done there. Loken gets a little greedy there, tries to zap the Gromp, and what he actually does is he basically just tells Tarzan that there's a ward there, so then Tarzan is able to clear that vision. Granted, that ward wouldn't have done much more. It already spotted that he's there, clearing from the bot side, so not the end of the world, but cheeky little attempt onto the Gromp there. But across the board, things looking pretty hot right now for JDG. They are about 1,500 gold up in this game. I'm excited for what this Nocturne can do across the course of things. Is going to go for that Strike Breaker. You can see the Iron Spike Whip, so very similar to this mid lane Nocturne that we have seen. Tarzan hanging around mid here.
Shockwave used on Yagao. He has heal, he has flash. Heal going to be used to be able to get a little bit of distance away from Tarzan, so he is relatively safe. And the whole idea of being able to handshake these lanes for the side of LNG, kind of out the window. JDG have been able to get a lot of tempo from that one play.
Yeah, able to get themselves ahead on the map. And they will be able to grab this Drake away. Tarzan wanted to steal that.
Oh,
we've got to
there's
fight.
a TP in. They're able to get the stun onto Tarzan. LvMao got to be careful. Here comes the call of the Forge God. Not going to be able to get the knock. A beautiful bubble in from Yagao to be able to deny that.
It was the Flame Chompers, I think.
I
think Makuya stepped onto the Flame Chompers and it denied his follow-up on the ult. That is real sad for Makuya. That is not what you want to be doing on the stage in such an important series as well. That's a bit of a blunder, and it's not going to look pretty for him.
And look at this entire time, Zoom has been having up top lane, being able to get more of a CS lead over Makuya, being able to get a plate for himself as well. This Nocturne, we've been waiting to see what he's going to do outside of the lane, but really right now, Zoom's doing what Zoom does best in getting leads in experience and CS early.
Yeah, and Kanavi is like, look, I have my top laner available. Your guy has to go and deal with the wave. You don't know where my mid laner is. I'm going to come and take your red buff. There's nothing you can do about it, Tarzan. And now Kanavi can either go and clear his jungle from the top side down, or he could go straight towards his own bottom side to try and deny the invade from Tarzan. But because Loken and LvMao are in lane right now, Light and Lwandy obviously won't have priority on the bot side, so it's really difficult for Tarzan to actually counter invade.
Honestly, that is a hard spot to be as Udyr. You pick this to be able to fast clear, to be able to try to keep up and surpass Kanavi on this Hecarim, and not being able to do so makes it so that what do you do now? Where do you go back onto the map? What do you try to accomplish elsewhere? As Zoom gets a bit of a trade, not necessarily going the best way he would have wanted to, but either way, it doesn't matter. He's able to get the wave shoved in.
It's just like this matchup feels like it's all just mind games. Tarzan did go for that invader we were talking about. No smite available for Kanavi.
No, but he was at least able to get some of the chickens, and since you had Icon nearby, Yagao had already backed, it meant that it was a pretty easy escape for Tarzan. But I'm kind of looking to see, when are we going to finally see Zoom make a play? He's about to get, well, he's about halfway through his cooldown on TP, but he doesn't really need it. That paranoia is enough to be able to rotate faster than Makuya.
Yeah, I mean, he's able to make plays on the map. I think what he's looking for right now is that plate. You could see Makuya trying to hold the wave. He's having to tank the wave just out of range there to try and deny the plate. But look where Tarzan is on the map right now. He's going straight towards that top side. He's thinking Zoom might go for a dive.
Yeah, but they have at least the knockup coming in. Call of the Forge God. When the spell shield get used, it doesn't get used at all, and it's a kill for Tarzan.
Read him like a book. Beautifully set up there by Makuya. Zoom going so aggressively for these trades over and over again means that he's really punishable. Tarzan can stick to the top side right here because Herald is available, his Krugs are up. If Zoom just goes straight back to the top side, although Zoom doesn't have TP, so my point is moot. But across the board now, it's good to see LNG finding themselves an advantage because they were starting to fall behind pretty much across the board. Obviously, there's the 10 CS lead for Icon, but that's because Yagao's been out on the map getting kills.
Exactly. And having a chance to be able to get Icon where he's not falling behind to Yagao. Light and Lwandy, it's a weaker bot lane than you'd really want to have for Light and Lwandy, but they're still keeping up at least with some farm towards the Loken. Sure, the 2 assists make it a bit difficult, but as long as you're not trading too much, you're not really falling behind as the Aphelios, it's going to be decent when we get to this mid game.
Yeah, it's going to feel pretty good. You can see LvMao just standing in vision there. Wanted to move in and take the board, but wasn't 100% sure where Lwandy and Light were, so waits until they show in the bot side to move in and take the ward. Really intelligent stuff from LvMao, being patient, which, you know, we've all seen the screenshot of him in that interview. We all know he can be a little bit impatient sometimes, so good to see him playing that correctly and waiting for the right opportunity. But again, slow but sure leads being built up across the board here for JDG. They're 1,000 gold ahead. Drake is coming up in 45 seconds. And once again, because of this advantage in the bottom side of the map, you expect JDG to be able to have priority on that Drake. Because Yagao can just evenly clear the waves mid side. But Kanavi actually starts up a Herald instead.
Yeah, having LvMao already called up towards the top side of the map, it's 20-ish seconds until we have that dragon actually start. And Sleepy Trouble Bubble at least is going to keep away Tarzan, so he doesn't really want to go towards the pit just yet. It's going to be a difficult fight. Zoom can easily use that paranoia to cut off any way that Tarzan might want to be able to get into this pit, but all 5 members of both teams are here. It's going to be the smite secured by Kanavi. They could continue to look for the play further on to LNG.
Oh, Zoom just wants the 1v1. Makuya, he's going to be feared. There's no way out of this one, surely.
He flashed, was able to get away. The Rocket doing a little bit of damage. Finally, they get the stun, and there's the onslaught of shadows to be able to get the kill for Kanavi.
Okay, so JDG making a snap decision here. We don't care about this Drake. We're going top side. They find the pick on Makuya. He doesn't have TP. This will be first tower of the game in favor of JDG. This is the best possible use you can get out of the Rift Herald, where Zoom is able to just shove this in, make sure he's close enough to get the gold from the tower here. In the meantime, Kanavi can clear out this entire topside jungle. So Tarzan ultimately loses out individually when it comes to this trade. You can see him. He knows it. He wants to try and stop that happening. Smite available for Kanavi, but he's just going to zip and get out of there. Herald will get another charge, but they're not going to try and push for the tier 2. So trading a Drake that they know that they can stack Drakes. They know they're not going to fall massively behind on Drakes, so getting a gold advantage instead.
Getting a large gold advantage instead, too. Stride Breaker is now completed for Zoom. They've got this Nocturne in a position to be able to snowball, and that's really the idea, even if it's more of that bruiser build that you tend to see from Nocturne. Having it so that he can dive into the backline, try to see if he can disrupt Light, disrupt Icon, is going to be enough that LNG's entire teamfight composition is kind of thrown to the woodworks.
Does feel like we have a huge amount of dive potential on the side of JDG, right? When you think about what does Hecarim want to do in a team fight? He wants to get an ult across everyone and just jump at the AD carry. Well, he's got a Nocturne that wants to do the exact same thing, to jump into that backline and try and get the assassination. Even with this Bruiser build, you're still offering a lot of backline threat, with Yagao potentially being able to find bubbles. The downside, though, is if these... Like, you're trying to do this on Aphelios. Aphelios loves it when the enemy team wants to run at him. That's exactly what JDG's team wants to do. The question is, can he survive that initial burst? If he can survive the initial engage, the team fights might actually look really fantastic for LNG. If they're the ones in the right position and setting up correctly, they can win out.
That's a Magnet Storm being able to catch out Tarzan. They've got him stunned up as well. Flashed over the wall to be able to survive. Rocket does not connect. Tarzan will survive another day.
Yeah, but now JDG, what can they get off of the back of this play? Because they've forced the enemy jungler out. They're looking towards the mid lane and the bot tier 2. I don't think they'll do anything bot, but mid lane, they can at least hit the tower.
Yeah, it does. There is Icon here. He's going to be able to clear out the minion wave pretty fast, so not even a scratch really coming in from Yagao to be able to try to make it worthwhile. Sure, they get the flash out of Tarzan and Icon, but they need to be able to get a bit more. They want to be able to keep this tempo going over LNG.
a try at very least. They don't quite get anything done in the mid lane there. But looking at the jungle matchup, it is all Kanavi all day long. But Tarzan wants to make a play to the top side.
Oh, the forward got the flash. Nice spell shield this time around from Zoom to try to get away from that one. Will be able to get back towards the turret to survive.
Zoom has been really on point with these spell shields. The Shroud of Darkness just being used so effectively. And importantly as well, like, I think a lot of people don't realize that Shroud of Darkness is a DPS ability as well for Nocturne. A lot of Nocturnes will look to spell shield as soon as they possibly can in a fight just to get attack speed. It gives you a bunch of attack speed when you block a spell. Zoom has not used it in that way once during this laning phase so far. He's been blocking the Brittles consistently, that time blocking the second proc on Call of the Forge God. It's really, really great to see him being so proficient on this Nocturne.
And honestly, it's a surprise. It's not a pick you expect too often, but here's Paranoia looking for the dive onto Icon, and they blow him up.
Yeah, see you later, Icon. Not a lot Icon can do about that one. And here's the beauty of the Nocturne pick, right? Most top laners, you have a bit of time.
Yes, you do. I was waiting to see if they wanted to commit fully for that dive, but once they saw that Lwandy was there, they saw Mikuya as well. They're just going to look for the poke instead onto LNG, though that Mikuya stepped a little too far forward, so they can get that pick as well.
Mikuya looking like a Nautilus right there. Accidentally goes space burst into the wall and gets punished for it. Onto the tower. We've got rear gauge.
TP, Lwandy, you were able to survive, but at what cost? Look at Tarzan, how much damage is back onto him. Yagao having to flash to be able to survive away from Icon, but he does not have the shockwave to try to keep this fight going. Light might be able to at least get a little bit of damage onto him, but LvMao, still underneath the turret, will be able to escape this fight as Yagao, ooh, nice, leave trouble bubble, and Icon barely alive too.
Icon really wanted to make something happen. He wanted to push the advantage, the temporary advantage that they had. Loken now in trouble. Makuya's teleported down.
Oh, that was a pretty good attempt coming in from Loken to be able to survive, but unfortunately, we knew what was going to happen once we saw that Tarzan was there.
All right, so the play finally ends, and it goes in... I guess the final moment of it goes in favor of LNG, but look at the goal difference right now. JDG are running away with this one. They've managed to get themselves so many plates across the board. They've already got 2 towers down, but it's in trade for pressure on these dragons. LvMao wants to contest this one, but Kanavi is nowhere near the play. They need to get over here, but LNG not actually in a great spot themselves. The thing is, Loken's not alive yet.
No, and Lwandy does not have that unbreakable will this time. Going to be a lot easier to be able to burst down. LNG are trying to see if they can set up. Sleepy Trouble Bubble not going to be able to connect, but look at Kanavi with the Paranoia as well. They dive in. It's going to be the secure on the side for Tarzan, but the backline is getting eviscerated. Jumping on top of Light, flashing over the wall to be able to survive. The Zoom now trades targets, looking for Lwandy instead, getting a lot of damage on him so they can chase him down, pick up the kill, and only Light, look at that, so far away to be able to survive. Kanavi, he could go for the full dive, but he decides to peel off that one instead. They've already won the fight.
Yeah, he was thinking about it, but you know what, JDG... Who cares if it's a 4v5, they scream. They absolutely annihilate LNG. Guess what? Mikuya and Tarzan had already used so much trying to get that pick onto Loken at the bottom side. JDG managed to brute force a fight off the back of it. They're getting the mid lane tower. That's their 3rd one. I don't think they can push tier 2 at this point, but they can at very least get some more jungle camps. Their Herald is up on the map if they want to just grab that on the way out, but you can see Light is moving over. This is a really fast-paced game between the 2 teams.
It was really slow at the beginning. We expected, weak sides, that there wasn't going to be that much action, but once they started grouping up for these team fights, that's where it all blew up.
So let's see how this went down, because this was 4v5. The rocket comes in straight away, and they go onto Light. You can see that Zoom is able to just push him out of the fight completely. The CC chain coming out from Kanavi and LvMao on the rest of the team means nobody can help the AD carry. And the rest of it is just easy cleanup. The rest of it is the fact that there is a ton of AoE damage and AoE CC on the side of JDG, so they're able to just lock up and take down the entire squad of LNG who were grouped up on a single point. And now JDG poised in a fantastic position, almost 7,000 gold up. Zoom respecting the potential dive here because his team is on the top side, taking Herald, and they already have every single tier 1. So this Herald will be looking towards at least tier 2s.
Oh, look at this
So
TP.
you could pressure in hips with
Oh, yeah,
this.
there's no mana there to be able to try to survive. He's not quite tanky enough. Going to be able to get the fear they need to be able to fear him the other way towards Yagao. So they give the kill over to him as well. The turret was taken in the bot lane, but look at this. JDG, they get the kill. They have that Rift Herald as well, but they can decide where and when they want to pop it.
Yeah, but Tarzan and Icon are on the bottom side of the map right now, so there's nothing they can do to stop anything here. Loken could just clear the wave because the Herald will finish the tower off here. This is beautiful from JDG, and this is what we talk about, right? We said that the smartest team in the LPL from 2020 is back, and this is smart, intelligent macro play. This is what we loved to see from JDG last year, them playing around their win conditions and playing well on the map, and they are out trading LNG everywhere.
They've gotten, well, they got 2 turrets off that play. They got all 3 of the tier 1s as well. They have this massive gold lead over LNG. With Baron being up, this is crazy to see out of JDG. Like you said, they're back and they are looking strong. Even with these dives that look a little bit risky from Kanavi, he's getting bounced around, but LvMao is nearby. Having to use the Onslaught of Shadows to be able to get away, they're trying to see if they can re-engage, but all 5 members of LNG are here. The flash over the wall coming in from LvMao. Zoom's not in range, does have that paranoia. If they can continue to chase back, Storm was flashed away, jumping onto the backline, getting so much damage on Icon, but they're going to trade instead onto Tarzan. Trying to get Yagao to get a little bit more damage, but look at Loken this entire time, fighting against Light, getting a lot more of that poke damage. He tried to get the Gale Force in, will be able to trade the life of Loken for his own, but only now. The top and support for LNG are alive compared to the 3 members on JDG. Yagao is chasing away Mikuya, looking for the paddle started, keep them pushed underneath this tier 2 while Zoom pushes in mid.
Look at Zoom. Yeah, look at Zoom. He's already pushing in the mid lane. That fight was pure chaos, and JDG are just plenty ahead enough to use their lead and use their mechanics to take over. Yagao especially finding a beautiful snipe. You saw Kanavi leave the play at 100 miles an hour. I thought he was going to go back in then. I thought he was just going to go in just because he was fast enough. It was hilarious to watch. But the raw mechanical skill that JDG are showing in these fights is so beautiful. Look at the top 3 players. 1 death between them. Let's take another look, because LvMao goes in to save his jungler. I thought that was the point where Kanavi was going to go back in. I thought it was absolutely insane, but they're just buying time. Here comes Zoom. Flies into the play. Loken free firing this entire time, by the way. Chucks out his rocket, finishes the first kill, and then watch Yagao here with the stolen flash, jumps over the wall and surprises Icon mid-diff in a nutshell. And then Light finally manages to trade 1 kill for his own life, but it's just not enough.
Well, we come right back in. Light's dead, Lwandy is dead, and there is a Baron up. Right now,
This is beautiful here from JDG. They can start this one off easily. What is that TP? Icon, why are you TPing to the bottom side of the map?
they're trying to get soul point. They're trading. They're saying, you know what? We cannot fight here. We at least can get something.
Here's the thing, though. He didn't need to TP. Tarzan could just solo this. Like, that was a complete waste of TP in my mind. There was no double contest here. It wasn't like JDG were trying to do both at the same time. Like, this was just a free Drake for the side of LNG. Icon did not need to teleport for that one. He's just going to now push the wave and reset, I guess. But I think that was a complete waste of a TP. Either way, JDG massively ahead on this one. 14-4. Like, they're 10,000 gold up. Now with the Baron, with a composition that's more than happy to play side lanes as well with this Nocturne. They just look on top of the world.
And Light not respecting the paranoia. He's saying, oh, they're not going to dive me mid lane, right?
And this is like, with the Jinx here and the Zoe as well, there are like elements to the dive that you don't immediately think of, right? Because Jinx is not historically a dive champion. She's a front-to-back teamfight AD carry, but her ult can be used for dive. And it's the same with Zoe, where you can jump in with a paddle star and push that extra little bit of damage. So then when the Hecarim and the Nocturne go in, there is actually a surprising amount of really long-range follow-up from the rest of JDG. And sure, your backline threats from JDG don't have much to defend them in the fights, but that doesn't matter because they are never under any threat. No one from LNG can ever dream of trying to threaten the backline.
Kanavi wants to dive into the base of LNG. They're waiting out the minions. They got bot lane already pushing up for Zoom. They've got LNG exactly where they want them.
They just need to wait for Paranoia. It's already back off cooldown. Zoom has basically been using Paranoia on cooldown this game, which I absolutely adore. if you're going to pick Nocturne, use his ultimate. That is the reason that you pick this champion. Like, he is so powerful because you can essentially have that free teleport, and it's a very short cooldown as well, like way shorter cooldown than a lot of these other global ultimates. So really, really great use of that paranoia. And now, as we said, this Nocturne could sit in the side lane while the rest of the team
with the
sieges.
Magnet Storm on top of Icon. They blow him up in the back line, so now they can try to see if they can get the trade. They lose Kanavi, but keep in mind that Zoom has a Guardian's Angel, so they focus them. It's not going to look out too good for the side of LNG. Makuya, the tank, is taken out by Loken, while the rest of LNG are forced back at the steps of their own base. Yagao is keeping them pinned so they can open up the inhibitor and open up the game.
JDG just trying to force their advantage here. I actually don't like this fight from JDG. I think that was way overkill. You could just play this one slow, keep Zoom in the bottom lane, pressure out one more minion wave, and you would have taken the mid tower anyway. I don't think they needed to brute force that fight, but I think just basically saying, look, let's flip it here. Maybe we could just end the game. Maybe we could just close this one out and go home for dinner. They don't get it. Important thing to note here. LNG, off the back of the play that we saw bot side where Icon TP'd, Tarzan grabbed the Drake, they're on soul point. Drake is coming up in 2 minutes time. JDG can still lose this game. If they lose an Infernal Soul, that could be curtains for them. Let's take another look though. Great shockwave coming in there to try and peel. It will be Icon going down to start the play. But again, Nocturne and Hecarim both just dive onto the backline while Loken ults over and Yagao tries to throw some damage in. This is just going to be the rinse and repeat strategy for JDG. I just wish they played that a little bit slower because they could have used the Baron pressure a lot more effectively, I think.
As right now, they are at least keeping LNG pinned into their base still. But you're right, I feel like they could have played a little bit more patiently. They normally do. They normally wait it out so they can play around that bot lane, but now without the Baron for another 2.5 minutes. It's a minute and a half until they can try to see if they can get themselves that dragon, but poor Makuya. Had to TP just to be able to get away.
Yeah, that is a sad, sad TP from Makuya, who's realistically not had the greatest game of his life. I don't think he's had a terrible performance. Like, he had a couple of highlight moments, like setting up the ganks for Tarzan early, but ultimately not a great series for him so far. So now the siege continues. They have Zooms in the mid lane.
I'm gonna give him credit. I'm gonna give him credit on this one. Who would expect that? I wouldn't have been ready for that. Just Zoom's like, you know what? I played Cho'Gath. I've played Set. Nocturne, that's what I'm playing next. We're going for this instead as Light takes a big brunt of damage on the other side. And guess what? This Nocturne paranoia getting the flash in from Tarzan to be able to survive, but they're going to just see if they can focus down Lwandy instead with so much damage, the flash coming in, but they have got him where they want him. They have the kill coming in from LvMao, and they are diving so deep. Kanavi dies in the entire fight, while the rest of them getting that stun onto Makuya, looking for Yagao to see if they can at least follow it up onto Tarzan. They might be excited the shockwave gets too, but it doesn't help any. Not when you're pinned into your fountain yet again by JDG. They've got minions this time around, so now they can end game one definitively, take the lead over LNG, make sure they are one step closer to having that massive tie towards the top. Oh no, LvMao dives to the fountain, but it doesn't really matter. It's just the padding of the KDA.
Oh man, that was hilarious. I don't think he knew that he was going to be going to fountain range there, but yeah. JDG closed this one out comfortably. Beautiful, beautiful game from them. And I have to say, I'm not that surprised that they played it a little bit impatient. Like, here's the thing about JDG. Yes, they are usually a very intelligent team, but sometimes they do get impatient. I mentioned it earlier on in the cast as well, that there's that one screenshot of LvMao being like, I'm bored, can we just fight now? And I do feel like that does kind of talk a lot about how JDG play in the late games quite often. That was one of their issues last year as well. So pushing the envelope a little bit more than they needed to, but you know, it's the LPL. If they didn't do that, I would be bored miserable. So I'm glad to see it.
Their comp too is kind of built around being impatient. They have Rell, they have Hecarim, they have Nocturne. It's kind of like, if you're not diving them relentlessly, are you even playing the comp right?
Yeah, one thing I would have liked to see though is what we saw a little bit in that very last fight was where Zoom just sits in the top lane for a long time and the threat of the fight exists, and then he presses paranoia. He didn't even ult for like a good 5 seconds or something. He just holds with the paranoia on. The enemy team is like, oh god, Nocturne's gonna ult, Nocturne's gonna ult. Like, where's he going? Where is Nocturne? We're about to get dive. What's going on? And it's like spreads panic through the flock, right? And so LNG all whack away from the bot in him. And even if he chooses to go in, I actually don't think he needed to go in the last fight. I think you can just play that a lot slower. They win the game, so I'm not going to criticize that fight, right? Like, they know that they can just slap them with their wallets. They were 10k up, so they just go in. But even if you're not massively ahead in that situation, Zoom can just ult, threaten the potential of the dive to buy space to get that bottom inhib. So really, really intelligent composition here from JDG.
And it's also really funny to see how much damage 3 of the members did. You normally, when you have like this kind of composition, you'd expect it just to be the Zoe and Jinx. Well, Nocturne would have some damage. Sure, they're wailing away on a couple tanks on the side of LNG. But I'm impressed. I'm impressed how they were able to play this in the mid game and the early game as well to be able to get these leads so that LNG were always on the back foot. They never really had a good foothold onto this rift.
And I have to say, I'm just impressed that JDG have just turned it on, man. Like, I don't know what they have been having for breakfast. I don't know what changed, but they lost to FPX in week 7. This is the FPX base run, the kind of weakened version of FPX. Then since that point, they've been on a tear. They beat E-Star and they beat V5, which were like, okay, whatever. Like, you should beat those teams. That is expected that JDG beats those teams. But then crushing RNG 2-0. And now coming into the series against LNG, who, when you looked at the standings like a week ago, these two were basically even. And now it feels like JDG are far and away above. They're way above in the standings at this point, and if they can keep up this kind of performance, they're way ahead in terms of their actual performance in game as well.
JDG are back. What can we say? It was a great performance coming in from them.